It's Thursday the 29th of September and welcome to From the South. An elderly woman died of cardiac arrest on Wednesday after a powerful earthquake registering 5.4 on the Richter scale struck between El Hoyo and Mototombo volcano in northwestern Nicaragua. The country's Institute of Territorial Studies said that the quake occurred at around 11 p.m. local time, with a depth of 2.9 kilometers. Activists marked the Global Day of Action for legal, safe and free abortions in Mexico City by calling on nations across Latin America to decriminalize the practice. Although legal in Mexico City since 2007, much of the country has criminalized abortions. Authorities in almost all of Mexico's conservative states have fought back against Mexico City's abortion policies by making examples of specific women and tightening laws, and activists say that this is forcing women underground. Similar protests were also planned across Latin America, including in Argentina, where abortions are only legal in the case of rape or when the woman's health or life is in danger. Venezuela's opposition coalition has formally requested mediation from Pope Francis. A letter read by Jesus Torrealba, leader of the Democratic Unity Coalition, calls for the Pope through his quote, wise counsel to enlighten Venezuelans and to contribute to furthering talks between the national government and the democratic alternative. The presentation of this letter comes days after the government announced it had formally invited the Vatican to join the dialogue as a mediator.
After a 5-month struggle, the Honduran university student movement has achieved its two most important objectives: participation on the National University's Governing Council and the possibility of electing its own representatives.
After several years without having student representation and authentic student government, we have finally reached an agreement on the electoral process that includes the different points of view. We have possible date for the elections on November the 2nd.
In the elections, the students will choose the student president and the presidents of the 8 regional campuses, plus the president of each career and 16 representatives for the university's governing council, which is the head of the board of directors.
We want
representatives that are honest, that are well prepared, that know what they're doing, because those decisions taken by the University Council affect all the students at the university.
The student struggle began on May after the university's council approved new measures to increase costs and open the door to the privatization of the university. The student organizations have helped to block these measures and have agreed to accept the students' elections, something which hasn't taken place since 2004, when students' representatives were removed from the council and the board of directors. The students are now preparing for this new step in the process. Gerardo Torres, teleSur's, Honduras.
According to official figures, Argentina recorded its worst economic contraction in 7 years, with a 5.9% reduction in GDP for the third quarter. President Mauricio Macri admits that 1 in 3 Argentines are poor, adding that in the first quarter of 2016, poverty reached 32.2% of the population. Macri assumed office in December 2015, triggering an abrupt reversal in the economic policies of his predecessors. The Argentine economy shrank by 2.8%, compared with the same period 1 year ago, followed by a 2.7% decline in May. Dozens of striking metal workers gathered outside a Toyota plant in Brazil's southeastern city of Campinas to protest against proposed reforms by President Michel Temer. Nearly 2 million workers, represented by various metal workers' unions, undertook a series of marches and protests, arguing that Temer's current labor reform will hurt them. In Campinas and its region, which has about 70,000 metal workers, meetings were held at closed plant gates to delay the entrance of shift changes. The United Nations aid chief warned that Aleppo faces a humanitarian catastrophe unlike any witnessed so far in Syria's brutal 5-year war. While speaking at the UN Security Council, Stephen O'Brien said that an estimated 320 civilians were killed and 765 injured in the first days of the latest attacks that began on September 22nd. A packed commuter train plowed into a station in New Jersey during the morning rush hour. At least 1 person was killed and over 100 injured, many of them critically. According to an official, the train failed to stop as it sped into Hoboken Station. Then it went up over the bumper blocks at the end of the track and rammed into a wall. Notorious Afghan warlord Gulbuddin Hekmatyar called for peace as he appeared by video to sign a deal with President Ashraf Ghani, The deal grants Hekmatyar judicial immunity for war crimes and paves the way for him to make a comeback in mainstream politics. However, many human rights groups are opposed to the deal. Thousands of union workers marched to the heart of Jakarta, Indonesia, to protest against a government tax amnesty scheme, which they say will unfairly pardon wealthy tax dodgers. The union warns that there could be further protests and work stoppages if the amnesty continues. Tensions were high at South Africa's Rhodes University on Wednesday as police and students scuffled at a demonstration over tuition fees. Police used rubber bullets on the students and arrested 11 of them. Protests against the rise of up to 8% in tuition fees from 2017 have gathered momentum in the last 2 weeks.
The WAD Association for Prisoners and Ex-Prisoners organized a symbolic funeral Thursday for sick Palestinian prisoners who lost their lives in Israeli prison. Dozens of protesters gathered outside the office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights in Western Gaza City, carrying 208 symbolic coffins with the names of the martyrs who died in jails due to Israel's systemic policy of medical neglect. The spokesperson of the Muhajir al-Quds Association, Yasser Salah, confirmed that the issue of Palestinian prisoners should be a top priority of the United Nations and all relevant human rights organizations.
This week we said goodbye to Yasser Hamdani, martyr number 208, who died in Israeli jail due to the deliberate Israeli policy of medical negligence. We are carrying these symbolic coffins to push the United Nations towards Palestinians.
Many Palestinian prisoners have resorted to open hunger strikes to protest being held in administrative detention without a charge or trial, a practice that Israel routinely uses in violations of international law. In most cases, the prisoner's administrative detention order is renewed several times. According to the Palestinian Prisoners Society, 1,800 Palestinian prisoners are currently being held in the Israeli jails. 120 of them are in critical conditions. Human rights groups say that a total of 208 Palestinians have died in Israeli custody since 1967, 55 of them due to medical negligence. Noharazin teleSur's TV, Gaza.
Former Barcelona and Spanish star Xavi Hernandez visited a Palestinian refugee camp near Amman the day after being appointed World Cup 22 ambassador. It was an initiative launched by the organizers of the Qatar 22 World Cup. Hernandez said that he visited the camp because he said he liked to help people. More on these and other stories on our website telesurtv.net/English.